3 years ago, we created a Model UN team, 3 of us, called Peruvian Debate Society. We had the chance to travel to Harvard to discuss relevant problems. So in that aspect, I had the chance to discuss food insecurity. This is a problem that is affecting all of us. We discovered a simple but alarming problem. And this problem was that every single food that we eat every day is generating a lot of pollution. For example, to produce 1 pound of beef, it is necessary to feed the cows with 60 pounds of food and 2,500 gallons of water. Additionally, with all the food provided to these cows, we can actually feed the whole world. Fact: yesterday I was eating McDonald's. That burger actually is releasing the same amount of greenhouse gases as driving 20 miles by car. So thinking about the future, in the year 2050, we will be 9 billion people in the world, in which 1 billion will not have access to water. So, additionally, the demand for steak will increase in 70%. And also, we will reduce in 30% arable land for other activities. So, imagine, I want to be alive in 2050, don't you? So we have a clear problem that consumption today is not sustainable. Thankfully, I found friends that had the same purpose and concerns than me, and that's how we created Hiki Foods. Experienced in Química Suiza, McKinsey in consulting, Uber operations, and Activas partners, we are here to create and build a better society for consumption for Peru.
But when we were researching what we can do to make the world this better place, we found out that there was already an alternative, and it was insect consumption. In 2011, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations said that the future, in order to grant food security for the world, was eating insects. Insects are already eaten by 2 billion people around the world in 162 countries, and they contain high protein, fatty acids, fiber, and micronutrients. And insect breeding consumes 2,900 times less water, 14 times less food, and 10 times less space than beef production. So, but we had this main question: would you eat bugs? Would you eat insects? And our first hypothesis was Peruvians will eat insects. I mean, some of us already eat suri when they go to the jungle. And we went outside and we ran 200 polls, and we found out that the answer was around no. 90% of the people we talked to said that they were grossed out by the idea of having a bug and eating it. But even though the results were not as we planned to, we did not give up. And we went on and talked with 30 plus experts from 7 different countries, including nutritionists and specialists in edible insects. Edible insects are the insects that you eat. And we found out we had these key findings. First of all, that we could not aim for the low income segments, which was our main idea because of the high cost of this industry. That in countries that did not have a tradition eating insects, we could not give people insects to look. We had to give them different presentations, such as flour or energy bars, cookies made of insects. Third of all is that we couldn't target the whole market, that we had to identify few segments that had a problem with nutrition. And finally, that most of the producers in the world eat either crickets or cockroaches, but that some people might think bees were a little better option because, let's face it, they're cute. Okay.
So we had a first hypothesis. We really wanted to prove which segments had actually this problem of getting other alternative for healthy and sustainable consumption. And that's where we found what we call naturalities. All the people that actually are in the trend of having a healthy lifestyle and eating different kinds of healthy and sustainable food. Then we realized what we call sporties, which are the ones who realize work out often, and they really value staying fit and a healthy lifestyle, eating natural things. And finally, middle-agers and up, all the ones who are 45 years old or older, and they cannot eat steak or beef anymore. They have to get different resources. Our second hypothesis that we really wanted to prove is that people are most likely to try insects if they can see them. So that's why we have to evaluate different options or alternatives. And obviously we needed to define which is going to be our insect channel between bees, cricket, and cockroaches. So we went to the ground. We did 385 polls, and we find two different interesting facts. That actually the pain existed. We realized that 90% of this segment had that problem. And the other is that 60% thinks that flour is the best alternative for eating insects. So we can validate our hypothesis. Entire insects were not the proper presentation, so we will migrate to a flour. So flour insect presentation. Then the three segments that I already mentioned existed, and they had this necessity. And finally, we will not eating cockroaches. Come on, they are gross. And in between bees and crickets, the nutritional facts of crickets were way better than bees. So which is our big, bold bet? Cricket flour is a product that will change the way of people's consumption through a sustainable and natural way.
But we needed validation, so we designed the concept of what cricket mix was. Cricket mix is cricket flour which works as a nutritional complement, which is sustainable and has a lot of nutritional value. But we wanted to try this product with our goal segments, obviously. But we could not produce at a low scale because we needed around 11,000 crickets, and my mom wouldn't let me have them in my house. So we decided to import some samples from Thailand and the United States. We went out to the streets again, and we tried our product with the three segments. And we had a success rate, and by success rate I mean people who actually liked it and said they would be interested in it, with 70% in the naturalities, 78% in the sporties, and 62% in the middle agers now. Besides, we gave 10 bags to a friend of us in an eco market who was able to sell without any marketing 6 bags in just a weekend. So this is what our canvas looked like at this point. We first started wanting to sell sustainable edible insects to the whole market, but we ruled out that option. We also ruled out the low income segment due to costs, and we ended up with modifying our value proposition to natural and sustainable nutritional complements made out of crickets to these three segments. Now we had the segments and the value proposition. We needed to know how to reach our customers, and due to the polls we had information about the segments, and our hypothesis was that these were the places to reach them: the supermarkets, eco-markets, a subscription channel, personal trainers, the specialized stores. So we went out and met with people from each one of the channels, and we found out that we had to rule out supermarkets due to the economic conditions they gave us, but the other ones were confirmed. And we thought that the best way to reach our customers, given that most sporties naturalities are young people that use social networks, was through social networks and through BT, below the line activities, and public relations. We wanted people to talk about our product. We want people to comment that somebody is selling cricket flour. Our canvas at this point looks like this. We had these channels, but we ruled out supermarkets, and we had this customer relationships. However, we realized that it was too much for us as a small company, so we had to focus in the people that were young and were easily reached by the online community. So we ruled out the middle agers and now put it aside for the future.
So we realized that we need to do partnerships in order to make this successful. We were already working with Anna Sidey, which is a consultant for this industry in Switzerland. Personal trainers to influence in our sporties, and nutritionists to inspire our middle agers and app promoting our product. So we needed to define which are going to be our key activities. We realized that importation was not an option because all the problems they had. So our only chance was to become experts on the process of production.
At this point, basically our productive process consists on breeding, which takes 8 weeks. We talked with 15 experts around the world, global renowned entomologists. Then the reproduction, which each female can lay between 50 and 90 eggs a day for a week. Harvesting, which is pretty simple. You just freeze the crickets and then boil them. And then you roast them and transform them into flour. And well, the waste management consists basically cricket feces can be used is sold actually in the world as organic fertilizer, which we will do. At this point, we realized that we had our main key partners, and we identified that our key activity was going to be the production of the flour. And obviously, we needed an entomologist at this point, and our key resources were going to be our crickets, the farm we needed to produce them, and the know-how we had gathered by talking to a lot of people.
Muchas gracias al equipo Hiki Foods. So we have any questions on here?
Could you just pound through the rest of the slides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just pound through. So what's the name of your business?
Hiki Foods.
So Hiki Foods?
No, it's not. Hiki Foods.
Hiki Foods?
Hiki Foods.
Hiki?
Means
I'm just kidding you.
It means Hiki means cricket in Petro.
Yeah, I know exactly. Very, very interesting presentation, and nice build-up to your pain and and then building out testing your hypothesis. So well done, well executed. How much time are you going to have at the international business model competitions, the finals? How many minutes do they have?
well, I think there are 10 minutes.
Is it 10 minutes?
Sadly, well, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
So I've been a judge for the past 3 years at the international competitions. I think it's 10 minutes. So you didn't get to your punchline, and I think you've got a solid punchline, and I think you've got a nice build up to the story. And the challenge is you're building on a product that's already exists in the marketplace and it's already being sold around the world. But I like what you're doing with it. You're doing a build up to validate an existing product as opposed to trying to come up with a new product. So I think that's totally fine. You just need to get to your punchline and you got to condense your presentation down.
I actually didn't know that this product was sold somewhere else. Like, it would have been nice to see what the market looks like in other places. You know, if it's Asia, the market where they sell the most, just to see, because now I see some top line numbers, but I don't know if that's just Peru. Is that exporting?
Yeah, the thing, most of the insect consumption takes place in Asia, in Thailand, for example. But since the United Nations published this report, the United States market for edible insects went from $1 million in 2011 to $50 million last year, and half of it is made of flour. So it's being introduced into new markets such as Europe and the United States.
If you cover them with chocolate, they taste great.
Have you tried it?
Yeah.
It actually does.
Brownies are better, actually.
So that's the question I was going to ask. How did you test the product with the market?
I'm very sorry, I forgot to mention that. We mixed it with yogurt and fruit. And it's kind of like we had this statistic that showed that around 40% of Peruvians are now used to having nutritional complements such as maca, kim, etc. So they were used to mixing things with yogurt, with milk, with fruit, with all those things, and we actually validated it has a very neutral flavor, so it does not affect the flavor of what you're eating whatsoever.
So it's not flour. It's not flour.
Yeah, there's a misconception about the term, and we do know that we have to make emphasis in marketing about that. Is that flour is something you obtain after a dehydration and milling process, but it's not like you can use this to bake things. You
can do it actually, because if you use 30% of our flour with 70% of the regular one, and you actually will have like healthier desserts.
When you try the product and you give the potential customers the yogurt with the crickets inside, do you also give them yogurt without them to see the reaction, to see which one they like best?
No, I mean, the worst part was telling them that it contained crickets.
Did you tell them that?
Most of them had.
No, they were prepared. They were prepared.
I mean, we put it in front of them, so they did know what they were getting into.
And that was my question. Like, is the name of that product the best one? Because cricket mix.
We tested 6 different names, and obviously some of them didn't have like anything to do with crickets. But actually, because of the people that are part of our segment were interested in sustainability, natural things, healthy lifestyle, they really liked it. So that's why we chose it. But we are obviously open to change it if it's necessary for the whole market.
And obviously, the presentation, we bought this cricket flour that had this huge cricket in the in the layout, which was awful. So if you could see our presentation, it does not have a big ugly bug.
No, but it's just I'm just telling you from experience. For example, my wife is from the US. First time I said anticucho, and she actually tried it without knowing it was anticucho. But when you say the heart of the cow, she's like, there's no way I'm eating that.
Yeah, there's a
So cricket mix, I don't know if it's the best name, but
Yeah.
well, if we can still, we will still testing it, and if there is a change, we will do it for sure.
All right, good job, guys. Thank you.